Welcome back. In our last video, accuracy, we went over the fourth CRAP test category.
In this video, we'll talk about the fifth and final category, purpose. So let's get going.
Evaluating purpose means considering the reason an author had for writing. So how do you evaluate for purpose?
Start by identifying the author's primary purpose in writing. Sometimes an author directly states his or her primary purpose, but if not, ask yourself the following.
Is the author trying to persuade by arguing a specific course of action or advocating a position?
Is the author trying to entertain by being funny, satirical, or dramatic?
Is the author trying to sell something by presenting information as a pitch or a dog and pony show?
Or is the author trying to inform or convey information by presenting facts, figures, or new information? Once you identify the primary purpose of a source, it's important to think about that purpose in relation to the information that the author provides.
After you've figured out the author's primary purpose, you should evaluate whether or not that purpose affects how you should use the information. Particularly when an author's purpose is to persuade, entertain, or sell a product, he or she may present biased or one-sided information. Additionally, the author might omit obvious facts or data to achieve the purpose. That's why it's important to analyze the information you find in the context of an author's primary purpose.
To summarize, evaluating whether or not the author's purpose affects your confidence in using the source can be done by asking the following questions. What is the author's primary purpose in writing for the information? To inform? To persuade? To sell or to entertain? How does this purpose affect your use of information? Does the author omit obvious facts or data that might disprove a claim? And is there an obvious bias or prejudice that calls into question the author's use of evidence?
Let's look at an example. Start by figuring out each author's purpose. The excerpt from source 1 initially looks to be informative, but the last sentence has a humorous undertone. It's published in The Onion, a satirical online magazine, so its purpose is to entertain by way of making fun of the news. Therefore, facts and figures are purposefully inaccurate. Source number 2 comes from the Wall Street Journal. After reading the excerpt, which contains data, it's clear that the purpose is to inform. Given the informational need, source number 2 is more appropriate than source number 1.
Let's look at one more example. We purposefully use two blogs in this example since they are becoming popular sources of information. Generally, you'll want to support information found in blogs with data or other research, especially if the author doesn't back up statements with evidence. But back to the case at hand. Which source is more appropriate for the informational need? The excerpt from source 1 suggests that people would be crazy to hire someone with an English degree. But the author's purpose for writing is clear in the last two sentences. He's introducing his blog. Because of his purpose, to promote or sell himself and his blog, he writes what he thinks the general public wants to hear about English majors. After all, he's trying to be internet famous, and what better way to do that than to play into the stereotype about English majors? Source 2, on the other hand, isn't written to sell anything. In fact, while source number 1 is published on the author's personal blog, this source is published in the Huffington Post's blog section. The author has no personal agenda for writing other than to give an entrepreneur's viewpoint on hiring English majors. Nor does he appear to have promotional bias, as he has no investment in the matter. His purpose is primarily to inform, and therefore meets the informational need in a way the first source does not.
Remember, when evaluating purpose, first figure out why the author is writing, and then evaluate whether that purpose affects your use of the information.
Specifically, evaluate whether the author omits facts or uses bias evidence to achieve that purpose.
That wraps up our videos about the CRAP test categories, but let's take a moment to review.
The CRAP test can be used to evaluate all types of information.
It contains 5 categories: currency, relevancy, authority, accuracy, and purpose.
Each category has 2 to 3 questions you should consider before determining to use a source.
Generally, you should consider how a source stacks up in all 5 categories before deciding to use it or not. But sometimes, your informational need may require a source to meet one specific category, and if it doesn't, it's a deal breaker.
Don't worry, you can always refer to your CRAP reference guide if you forget any of the questions related to the CRAP categories.
We hope these videos have been helpful in understanding how important it is to evaluate information.
If you have any more questions about the information presented in these videos, ask your FYE instructor for help.